What up, everybody? This is Mike over at Foos Alerts. Today is September 3rd. Hope everybody is enjoying their Labor Day. I'd like to have a discussion today going over-the-counter stocks or stocks that trade on the pink sheets. As small cap day traders, obviously we like to trade small caps because they have huge volatility and usually enough liquidity to get in and out with some decent size. However, when the small cap market does dry up a little bit, the OTC or pink sheet market can be attractive to day traders as well because you can see stocks there that also swing 50 to 100% intraday. So there's two stocks in particular that I wanted to discuss today that were pretty good shorts over the past week. First one being MGTI. This was a former stock that was traded on the open markets. It's John McAfee's company, former cybersecurity expert. Basically, they are a Bitcoin mining company as well as a fantasy sports company. Pretty unique in itself. You can see that it went from 25 cents to $5 when it was trading on the exchanges, and then when it went OTC, you can see it had this really nice bottoming pattern and roll right over the $1.50 zone. So typically as short sellers, guys, what I like to look for are stocks that have made on a minimum 50 to 100% moves within a short period of time, whether that be a day, a week. I usually like to see more of a parabolic move as opposed to a slow grind because it makes the downside move that much more compelling. So MGTI, once it broke out of basically we'll call it 150, this move was pretty strong and ripped as high as $3 being the 100% move, but you can see that it actually ripped all the way up to 4. Typically, we like to use whole numbers as major support or resistance zones. So for me, once I saw this break through 3, and then it magged basically right to 350. I was much more patient to watch it for the over under 4, which is where you looked for the stock to rip over that next whole number, ideally not hold it and show some further weakness and drop off from there. Foos and I were talking about this actually on Thursday. But unfortunately, I did not get to participate in this trade for two reasons. Number one, it was very difficult to find shares to borrow as a short seller. Most people are unaware that your broker might not have shares to short the stock because in order to short it, you need to borrow it, and someone else needs to be long it, and your broker needs to basically find you those shares. Sometimes they cannot. So to be able to participate in most shorts, you need to have a broker that is more short seller friendly. Number two, guys, something I'd like to discuss further, which kind of makes me a little less attracted to the OTC market, is that the liquidity obviously is there. As you can see, MGT is traded well over 3 million shares. It traded almost 8 the other day. But getting in and out of these stocks is very difficult. You have very weird ECN and market makers that are involved. So your orders take much longer to fill, getting both in the stock and out. So that usually turns me off because for me as a trader, I have a lot of peace of mind knowing any stocks that I'm in I can get in and out as I please. To know that I don't have that option makes the trade a little more risky for my taste, and the risk reward really isn't worth it for me. But unfortunately on MGTI it would have been. This stock, you can see, guys, peaked out over 4 perfectly. And once this had a really nice descending triangle that it formed, this thing went from $4 to as low as $2.80 within about an hour, guys. So that's almost a 40% move to the downside, pretty quick from the highs that we had at about $4.25, we'll say. And you can see from there it bounced and was basically just chopping around. But the reason these moves can also be made is because stocks on the OTC market don't really go SSR as quickly, or they don't for that fact. So MGTI was able to have this drop, which is pretty incredible because, on a 10 or 20,000 share position, that's basically a $20,000 to $30,000 profit within an hour. So these are the types of moves as day traders that we like to look for, guys. And I wanted to use this as an example, MGTI, of some of these shorts that we like to look for. I'm typically very uncomfortable longing some of these OTC stocks because the fact that they are pink sheets means that, in my opinion, they're not legitimate companies. So I'd like to also talk about another one, which was UAHC. This is a stock that went from 12 cents to about $1 within 1, 2, 3, 4 days. So this is a pretty attractive short. But once again, this was a little less volume. The most it traded was 3 million shares and as low as a million. So just to show you guys the longer term chart, basically held the 13 EMA for multiple days, and then once we peaked out over 1, this basically dropped pretty quickly. But the price action on the intraday is really not ideal. You can see that we had this peak out over to about 109. This thing dropped to about 77. Then peaked out as high as 90. Next day opened at 66, ripped all the way back to 1, and from there basically collapsed to as low as 50 cents. So usually it's a lot easier, in my opinion, to figure out which stocks are good shorts, but the trades are definitely a lot more difficult in that the price action can get very choppy and most likely try and shake you out. But that being said, these are two perfect examples of OTC stocks that you could have shorted over the past week. Ideally, I'd like to stray away from OTC. However, if they're trading at least a couple million shares, and the stock is up at a minimum 100%, if it's up 300 or 400%, that makes the short that much more ideal for me. These are the different factors I'm looking for to short sell these stocks, guys. So hope everybody learned a little bit something. Check out foosalerts.com and watch us trade live every morning.